I think in school, I got pooped on by a bird like every 6 weeks, something like every half term.
Every 6 weeks, like clockwork.
Well,
you woke up on the 6 weeks morning and you were like, well, it's going to be one of those weeks again.
I woke up and I was covered in bird poop. No, at school, I swear I used to get bird pooped on all the time.
Really?
Yeah, or that it had a scarring effect on me.
Hello and welcome back to... I'm not going to try that again.
Hello there. Cheers. All right, Irish Ben.
Oh, God.
Can we keep Irish Ben for the whole time?
Yeah.
Go on then.
Let's not do that.
No.
I'm not going to go into accents again.
Okay.
Right. Hello and welcome back to another week of Two Sheep in a Pool. My name's Ben.
My name's James.
How you doing?
Yeah, I'm pretty good. Pretty good. We've tried something newish this week. We went swimming.
Yes.
Together. It was quite good. Did you enjoy it?
I've actually been enjoying it a lot because I've been going for about 2 weeks.
Yeah.
I think. And I've the last couple of times feel like I can actually swim a bit now.
Yeah. At first it looked like you were drowning slowly.
Yes. I mean, because I was saying this to you before that I decided I wanted to do some swimming as like a bit of cross training so I wasn't just running and losing my mind. But I've never swam, and I never realised this because I've swum when we've gone on holidays and stuff like that. So I can swim and not drown.
Yeah.
But I realised I couldn't swim. Like actually swim. Like when we get into a 50-metre pool and it's all lanes and you just swim.
Yeah.
In that sense.
Like you're doing it for physical exercise rather than like a leisurely, like, I'm sweating outside this pool. I want to get in and cool down.
Exactly that. So for the first week and a half, I was not drowning, but
No.
I wouldn't say I was doing it properly. And the last couple of times, I feel like I can actually swim a bit now.
Yeah, you got into a comfortable rhythm with your
I could
stroke.
breathe is the issue.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that was good. I've been having an issue with it, haven't I guess. Not an issue with swimming. I used to swim competitively back in the day.
Yeah.
But I've been growing my hair out for a while now.
Yeah.
And if I'm going to pick up swimming as like a physical activity, and I don't want to be getting my hair chlorinated 3 times a week.
Yes.
So I've bought myself a swimming cap.
Yes.
But I've never used a swimming cap. I never really... I didn't understand how it works. Like, I understand how it works. Do you know what I mean?
We sound like idiots. I can't swim. I can't put a cap on.
What's a wet hat? Yeah. And I just couldn't get it to work. And so I asked Annie to help me do it. And she just, like, put it on her head. And it, like, looked fine.
Yeah.
And then when I put it on the way she did it, it pulls my eyebrows up, like, look a bit like Spock.
Yeah.
And it doesn't cover my ears. So hers was like on well and covers her ears, whereas mine was like half on and half off.
Yeah.
And when I went last,
I'm just picturing you trying to put it on like front ways, covering your face.
I can't breathe. I can't. No, I just put it on, but it just doesn't fit. I think my head's too big.
Yeah.
Or like, and because then I've obviously got my hair in a bun. But I know girls wear them all the time, so I don't understand why that would be an issue.
So you've still not solved your issue?
No, so I went, and then I still had a bit of wet hair. Like, I don't know, is it supposed to keep your hair completely dry?
I'm the wrong person to be asking. I can't swim, I've just announced. So
yeah, it was... But everybody else at the pool seems to have them over their ears, so I don't know whether to get like a different one that will cover my ears and keep me dry. But then it was like partially over, and then it was like water was getting in and out, and it was like so loud in my ear. I had to like readjust it.
I've been getting out the pool. My left ear is fine, but I feel like I'm going slightly deaf in the right ear.
Right.
From water getting in. I'm like, is that normal? I didn't remember this happening before.
I reckon usually what used to happen is that if it gets stuck, it'll get like, I don't know, a couple of days later, and then the water will just release. Yeah, and you're just like, oh, that feels so good.
That's better,
yeah. And if it doesn't, then you probably have to go get your ears.
Yeah. It's fine now. It's only for like an hour or two after.
Right.
Yeah. Well, at least we're living up to half of our podcast name now.
Yes. We've been to a pool.
We're 2 sheep in a pool.
I mean, I don't know, we're 2 of us.
Yeah.
And we're in a pool. We're just not sheep,
Just
are
not
we?
sheep.
Yet.
That's
the dream.
So you're enjoying swimming then?
Yeah, it's been good. It's been good.
I think you described our swimming styles were like the tortoise and the hare.
Yes.
When we went the last time.
Yes. Because you were like slow and steady. Because you were like, I want to get a kilometre without stopping.
Yeah.
And I was just kind of just like sprinting it out.
Yeah.
And then having a little break because my cardio's not great. But when I went on Monday, I just like slowed myself down and I went for a full 45 minutes.
Yeah.
So it is possible.
Yeah. Swimming. How have we managed it? We've just spoken about swimming for 10 minutes.
Yeah, you cut it down. Get all the boring stuff out.
Oh, yeah. Put it on future, Ben.
Future Ben. You can deal with that shit.
Right. Have you got any other little stories or tidbits before we do the news? I've got a question for you.
Okay.
I've got two things. We'll do the question first. Okay. I saw a very heated discussion happening on the interwebs.
Right.
How do you cut toast? I'm going to give you 4 options.
Okay.
Corner to corner.
Right.
So you get triangles. Mm-hmm. Halves, but from side to side. Mm-hmm. Or halves from top to bottom. Mm-hmm. Or other. For example, cutting it into soldiers or something like that.
I think I'm going to surprise you with my option, Evan.
Okay.
I don't cut my toast.
Oh, I should have given a 5th option.
Yeah. I don't.
You heathen.
I'm a full slice man. I don't need... Why do I need half of a slice?
I suppose I've not really got a counter argument for that.
Do you know what I mean? Like, my mouth fits around all the... It's like eating pizza. Like, I'm not saying...
Hang on. Are you suggesting you don't cut your pizza and you just pick up the whole disc?
No. But I'm saying it's like pizza slices are often the same size of toast slices.
Yeah.
But you wouldn't then cut a pizza slice in half to eat it more easily. Do you know what I mean?
I sometimes do. If I'm in...
You weirdo. Who uses knives and forks with pizza?
No, hear me out.
Weird man.
If I was at home, I'd never dream of doing that. But if I'm in a restaurant, usually around people that I don't know or I'm not necessarily like comfortable with, and I don't want to get sauce all over my face.
Yeah.
No mishaps. Mm-hmm. I can ensure that doesn't happen by using cutlery. Mm-hmm. Or cutlery, as you may say.
Cutlery. Yes.
Yeah. So you don't cut your toast
I've
at all?
Not in a long time have I eaten cut toast.
If gun to your head, if you had to cut some toast, how would you go about it?
I would cut it east to west.
Okay. I feel like there's only 2 real options.
Right.
I feel like corner to corner, which is probably what I'd go for. And just the triangles, they look nice.
Yeah.
Or sideways, like you've said. People who do it top to bottom.
That's psychopaths.
Yeah, that seems really weird to me. I don't know why. That's what I thought I'd ask, because I'm like, why would there be a wrong way to cut toast?
I only think in just the way you hold your knife, but then I guess it just depends.
But you just turn the bread.
Yeah, true.
But if anyone does cut it that way, can you email? Because I'd actually like to know. Because I saw it was an option on there. I was like, no one would do that. Surely not.
You're just left with 2 long, thin strips, aren't you? I think cutting it east to west.
I feel like that doesn't help structure it. You couldn't pick it up and it would flop.
Right.
Do you know what I mean?
Is this an issue, do you think, people are having with under toasting their bread as well?
Or maybe that's a whole other issue.
It does. Some people like to have warm bread as toast.
Maybe we should do an episode on toast etiquette.
It's been 45 minutes of talking about
toast. Or maybe just breakfasts in general.
Yes. I do enjoy a good breakfast.
Anyway, that was my question.
Right.
I also have some follow-up from the last episode.
Okay.
So,
what did we talk about again?
Well, it's not from the actual topic. It's just a bit from within it.
Right.
Okay. So, I believe that you put forward moose and meese.
Yes.
Another one that is an example is goose and geese.
Yes.
Okay. And my girlfriend suggested shoop and sheep.
Right.
Does that still sound wrong to you?
Yes.
Because her reasoning was, like moose and like goose, there's 2 O's. So, shoop. I know you're not pronouncing it the same, but there's still 2 O's in it. That was her rationale.
Okay.
Because you were questioning it at the time.
Right.
So she wanted to put forward her rationale behind it.
Yeah.
So spelling-wise, on paper, moose and meese, goose and geese, shoop and sheep, they all share 2 O's and 2 E's. And that's her rationale for it.
Apart from the first 2 rhyme, it's like moose, moose,
goose, shoes.
Shoes. Yeah, if it was shoes and shees, then I get behind it.
So you're still not buying that?
I'm still not buying it now.
Okay. Unless I'm explaining this completely wrong.
Yeah.
I believe that's the rationale.
Okay. So sheep is just the plural.
Yes. So a singular shoop.
Okay.
But 2 sheep.
Right. Okay.
So our name still holds up.
Yeah.
We're not meant to become 2 shoop in a pool.
Okay.
Yeah.
So is that you've got deer, as in many deer. Are they a door?
Yes.
If they're a singular door.
Yes.
Right. Okay, that makes
sense.
Sticking
to even though this isn't my rationale here, I'm sticking to her guns here.
That's fine. That's fine. Okay. I disagree vehemently, but they can have their own opinions.
Cool. Right, that's all my... Oh, actually, no, I've got one more.
Okay.
I'm having to include it because it's a bird-related story.
Oh.
And this seems to have become a whole segment of its own.
This is a bird podcast now, yeah.
So, on Sunday, fateful day, I was having a little run.
Yeah. How little was it?
It was 24 kilometers.
Yes, sounds pretty little to me.
So, bang on halfway through this run, almost to the minute. I remember checking this because I checked my watch and I was like, okay, time to turn around. So, I was the furthest from home I could have been. Okay. I'm running along. And I think I've got hit in the arm with a stone or something. I think someone's thrown something at me because it hurt quite a lot.
Oh.
And it felt quite heavy.
Yeah.
So I looked down at my arm and it's the biggest bird shit you've ever seen. So it kind of connected on like my bicep, so straight onto my sleeve. Mm-hmm. I was wearing a white top, I might add.
Right.
And then it like spread the whole way down my arm. And I don't know how it connected with such impact, but then exploded downwards. So I'm in the middle of nowhere at this point, the furthest from home I could have been, and nothing to clean up with. So I was thinking, I've got about an hour and a half home. I need to do something. So I just had to kind of find a bush and pull off leaves and use them as tissues for a bit. So then I go back through a park and find a public toilet, but there's no soap left in there. So I just have to splash a bit of water on me until I get home. And
did you not use toilet roll?
Yeah, a bit of water, a bit of toilet roll.
Right.
And, but then they ran out of toilet roll after about 2 sheets. So it was a horrific situation, and I felt very sorry for myself. But then I thought, seeing as it was bird related, I'd better say it on here.
That's pretty rough. Have you ever been pooped on by a bird before then, or have you?
No, I think this was first time.
I think in school, I got pooped on by a bird like every 6 weeks, something like every half term.
Every 6 weeks, like clockwork. You woke up on the 6 weeks morning and you were like, well, it's going to be one of those weeks again.
I woke up and I was covered in bird poop. No, at school, I swear I used to get bird pooped on all the time.
Really?
Yeah, or that it had a scarring effect on me, and now that I remember being pooped on all the time. But I remember once, one of my friends were, you know those little like dolly shoes that girls used to wear that have like no stability whatsoever?
Yeah.
She was chasing one of my friends for whatever reason. She took off her shoes and put them down, and the instant she put them down, a bird just pooped into her shoe.
That's very unfortunate.
I think birds do it on purpose, don't they?
Well, I was playing it over and over in my head afterwards. I was like, what are the chances of this? I was like, literally a second before or after, I'd have been fine.
Right.
Like that with the shoe.
Yeah.
I think they were aiming. I think that's what it is.
To be fair, I've been walking through town before. I think it was in an evening time, and I watched this seagull coming towards me, and I noticed that it pooped, and I had to stand to the side to avoid the pooping.
You saw it aiming.
I saw it coming from me,
Yeah.
I think they do it on purpose. But there's no way we can...
Especially if every 6 weeks the same bird targeted you in bed. Is that what you're saying?
Yes, that's exactly what I said, I think.
Yeah. Anyway, that's this week's bird story. Just to keep up the trend.
Okay.
And that actually is all my stories now.
Yeah. Right.
Anyway, right. Is it time for news?
It's time for News Bleat.
News Bleat. Right. What news you got?
Have you seen in the news that a man stole 122 million from Facebook and Google?
No.
Have you not seen this?
I've completely missed this.
So basically what he did... Do you think, how did they steal him? What he basically did was send them fake invoices.
Okay.
And they just paid him.
No.
Yeah. So
that's
like
genius.
Yeah,
I mean, I'm assuming is he had to give the money back, or is he in prison, or how's that? What's worked?
Yeah, so basically he just invoiced them for items they hadn't purchased, and they paid anyway.
No way.
Yeah, and no one really checked him. He's agreed to forfeit about 50 million. It's not clear what's happened to the other 78 million.
I imagine he spent it.
Yeah.
You'd think.
Yeah, or, well, it's kind of like squirreled away, I imagine. So he faces up to 30 years in prison, though.
Oh, God.
Yeah. So rough times.
Yeah.
But I just thought it was...
That is pretty crazy. I suppose when a company's that big and there's so many moving parts in it, what's one invoice amongst 1,000 if it's not checked properly?
Yeah, and do you think... he would have got away with it too if he hadn't got kind of too big for him boots. 122 million is a lot of money.
Yeah, you think if he stopped at 1 million and then just didn't do any more, he probably would get away with it, yeah.
Yeah.
That's the kind of thing that on their, when they're going through their yearly accounts and there's billions upon billions, 1 million is for them.
Yeah,
like
nothing.
losing £1 on the floor.
And it won't even come up as like a loss, really, will it? Because they'll probably like
no.
invoice out, oh yeah, we got this. And until they do like an itemized check.
Yeah, if there's an invoice, it's accounted for, like literally.
So
crazy.
Yeah, I
bet that won't be happening again.
Not from them, but I don't know. How do you double check it? Do you know, I guess you have to, is there liability on the accounting in their company?
I was going to say, I imagine in my head, I was thinking one person's doing their yearly accounts. I don't think that's going to happen. There's going to be multiple departments that add up to the larger whole. So you'd think it should be fairly easy to track if there's one person, just like any company.
Yeah, but if you went to all those different departments and said, oh, you bought this.
Yeah.
And they, you have to come together as a wider group to say,
True.
Has anybody had an invoice from Dave for 12,000 cream crackers?
Yeah.
Because I saw also on Twitter, do you know Hank Green of the Vlog Brothers, and he does VidCon?
I do not.
He's a YouTuber. He said that someone did something very similar to his company, so they invoiced them for $25,000.
Right.
And the person in charge of like accounting paid the money, and then it got caught like, well, no, we didn't. This invoice is not true.
Yeah.
And obviously the person then felt very bad for it, and they've had to change up their whole business idea of like how their internal business works because of that, because they can't continue to lose that amount of money.
I bet that happens a lot more than you'd think then.
Yeah.
Now we're talking about it. I think it probably would happen a lot.
Yeah. Good way to...
Crazy. Good way to scam people.
Yeah. And I imagine if you don't do 120... Like, you don't need 122 million.
No.
Like...
Yeah, that's just getting greedy.
It is. I wonder how much more... Like, how much he could have got away with. 50 million. Do you think anybody notices? And I wonder how many other companies he tried to get from as well.
Yeah, true. I bet there's a percentage of people, though, that are doing it and have got away with it then.
Yeah.
With smaller amounts that haven't tried to push it.
Or bigger amounts, you wouldn't even know.
Or bigger amounts, that's true. Well,
I thought that was interesting.
Would you do it?
Not again.
Not again.
No,
You've already got your 20 million.
Yeah.
Right. Any more news?
No, that was it, really.
Yeah. Quiet news week, which I think is good because I think the topic's going to be huge.
Yes.
Right. Should we move on? Fake news or not?
Yes. Fake news or not?
Cool.
Right. What is fake news or not then?
It's where
it's supposed to be me.
You give me some stupid headlines and I've got to say whether they're fake or not.
Yes.
Do you want to give me some stupid headlines?
I will give you some stupid headlines. Okay.
This is quite some preparation for this week.
Gonna make myself short. Okay.
Okay.
Woman claims her human rights have been violated after California judge refuses to marry her to her pet parrot.
Okay. That sounds stupid but completely believable. So, okay, next one.
Yep. And the other one is man fined after brutally killing a seagull.
Right. Can you say that again? Because the first time I thought you were like caveman speaking. Man fined fire.
Man fined.
Yeah, the man is fined money.
Okay. Yes, money.
Yeah.
For brutally killing a seagull.
Right. Okay, let's come back to that because I feel like that one's going to have more questions.
Right.
First one, woman wants to marry a parrot. Judge says no.
Yeah.
She goes, this is a violation of my human rights.
It is. Yeah.
You horrific person.
Yeah.
I don't even want to dig into this one too much. I think that's true.
Okay.
I just think that's the kind of thing that's true.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's fair enough. Right, let's go on to the seagull one then.
Seagull. How did he kill Seagull?
He smashed it up against the wall.
Are you saying like he caught it?
Yeah.
Was the seagull doing anything to annoy him? Had it been badgering him for a bit?
So what it says here, what it says written down here, is because it tried to steal his chips.
Wow. So his response was to smash it against a wall.
Yeah, so he grabbed it and smashed it against the wall.
And he was only fined. How much was he fined?
I think £750.
£750. I'm going with fake.
Okay.
I'm going first story is true.
Right.
Second story, you've made up.
Wrong on both accounts.
On both accounts.
Yes.
God damn it.
No.
I was sure this week. I was like, done.
I know, good. I'm glad we thought that. Yes. He was eating some chips.
Yeah.
A seagull came down to eat it, and he grabbed it and smacked it against the wall. And the reason he was fined is because he did it in front of like bystanders and children. So like the went to like a magistrate course, and he had a 12-week curfew. So he had to be in between his house between 8 p.m. and 8 a.m. in the morning.
Yeah.
And he was ordered to pay £750 in costs.
So because he did that in front of families, that happened. Are you saying if he had done that but just been caught on CCTV, for example, so he was still caught, but there was no families around, he wouldn't have had repercussions? Is that the suggestion? 'Cause that seems odd.
I think it's maybe actually, although Jones pleaded not guilty to an offence under the Wildlife and Countryside Act.
Right.
So
That's a pretty over-the-top response, I think.
Yeah. I think he probably has other issues going on.
Yeah, I'm going to say so.
I think it knocked his chips to the ground as well.
Yeah,
but it was trying
nonetheless,
to steal them.
If you tried to take one of the chips I was eating and you knocked my chips on the floor, I'm not going to smash your head off a brick wall.
Yes, but that's murder. He killed this thing that tried to steal his chips and only paid £750.
Yeah.
If you could get away with it for only paying £750, and then no seagull's ever going to try and steal your chips again.
No, that's not how that would work.
Ben.
All seagulls aren't going to go, oh, we probably shouldn't take it off that guy. Another seagull's going to do exactly the same.
If you could have killed the bird that pooped on your arm...
No, I wouldn't have killed the bird.
Would you?
No.
If you could have paid £100...
No.
Okay, fair enough.
It's a bird.
Yeah. Did you notice that they were both bird related?
Oh, yeah. I hadn't clocked on to that.
Yeah. I also had another line for the parrot one as well, that she trained it to say, I do.
I'd have believed that. I'd have gone along with it. You've done well this week. Have you noticed, I was going to message you about this, but I forgot. If you go to twosheepinapool.com.
Shoop.
No, we know that it's, if we were one shoop in a pool, it would be that, but we had two sheep.
No.
That was the whole argument that we made at the beginning. Right, if you make your way to twosheepinapool.com.
Right.
Mm-hmm. Are you on the website?
I am.
And you go down to the headers. You should see a new menu item.
Fake news or not scores. Ben 20, James 17.
Well, we'll now be able to update that to 2019.
The year we're in.
Just as I planned.
You planned to get them both. Fair enough.
I was trying to figure out some sort of way to automate this scoreboard, and then thought, I think it's easier if I just update the numbers every week.
I think, possibly impossible.
Yeah, possibly impossible.
Yeah, unless you have some sort of AI tuned to listening to this.
Yeah, tuned to... And then if you look again, it's just no.
In each section we go, James 2, Ben 0, and then it adds it on automatically. That'd be impressive.
I don't think we have the technology yet.
Well, I'm sure you could probably find a neural network to do it.
Okay, I am not clever enough to do that.
That's fair enough.
Ben does not have the technology in his brain yet. Right, are we done with fake news?
I
believe we are.
Guaranteed winner.
You've had 1 week.
Obviously, we're very even.
Yes, it genuinely surprised me how close it's been the whole way through. Mm-hmm. Anyway, right. Right. I think this week's going to be a bit controversial.
Yeah, probably.
Yeah.
I think that's fair enough.
And I think this is going to end up being a bit of a serious one, isn't it? We're not going to...
Yeah. If you're here for the pure bants, sorry.
It's not going to be a bants episode.
Hopefully not.
No. But, right, on this topic, I want to talk about this. I mentioned it to you beforehand. So this week, we are going to be talking about Madeleine McCann.
Yes.
Because Netflix have just released a documentary, 8-part documentary on the whole case. So we were going to kind of talk about the documentary itself and then just the case as a wider thing. And while I was doing some research beforehand, I've noticed this a few times, but I screenshotted some from one specific case that this has happened. Mm-hmm. Okay, so Spotify also made a documentary podcast on Madeleine McCann and the whole case, and they shared it on their Facebook page. The whole of the thread underneath, I almost want to say 80% of it was responses where people were just horrified that they were talking about it. So I screenshotted a few of them. It was, so someone said, inappropriate, reported, and unfollowed. This is horrific taste. Really, Spotify, I can't believe as a multinational company that you're doing this. well, this is classy. Have you been hacked, Spotify? Seriously, you can't be serious. Just tons of responses like this. Just on and on and on. And whilst this is a tragic case, I don't understand why talking about it is considered so horrific compared to other similar cases.
I think some people are just affected by it because it was such a huge case.
Yeah, because I'm not disputing that, and we will talk about how it is such a horrible case. But just the fact that it's being spoken about seems to offend people on a level that I've not seen many things offend.
I didn't really know that it was that much of a big deal. I'd be surprised if we went out into the street now and did, just a flash interview, would you think it's offensive to talk in a podcast about Madeleine McCann?
Yeah.
I think you'd find most people saying no.
Yeah.
It's not a big deal. But obviously those people that do find it a big deal are more likely to comment and have an issue with it.
Yeah.
Whereas everybody else probably just listen to it.
Yeah. Right. Well, now we've got that bit talked about. Shall we talk about... So I don't think there's anyone who is unfamiliar with this case. I don't think we need to summarise what happened, really.
No. It's Madeleine McCann is a missing child.
Yeah.
That's basically sums it.
And I don't think we could find anyone on planet Earth, or at least that will listen to this podcast, that is not familiar with the case.
Yeah.
So as we mentioned, Netflix recently, I think, what did it come out, like 2 weeks ago?
Yes, quite recently.
Released this documentary. So I thought first we'd talk about Netflix's documentary before we actually talk about the case as a whole. Mm-hmm. What did you think of this?
I thought the first half of it was good. And then I feel like it just was really clutching at straws for like maybe the last 3.
Yeah.
I was quite engaged and thought most of it was relevant maybe up until episode 5.
Right.
Or maybe 4 or something like that. And then the last few felt a bit more all over the place. Mm-hmm. So it was kind of talking about stuff that wasn't really relevant to the case, or was like only tenuously related to what the case was about.
Yeah.
I also had the feeling that, or I don't know if this is just the way that documentaries are set up, that it was set up in a way that you were watching it, there was going to be a resolution to it.
Yes.
But I don't know if that's just because I've watched documentaries where, and this is how the killer was found.
Yeah.
But obviously, I obviously knew watching it that she's yet to have been found and nobody knows what's happened. So I felt like it was very long for something that had no resolution.
I think that was my biggest criticism of this as well. It should not have been an 8-part series.
For sure.
And also, kind of what you just said, should it have been made now when this isn't actually presenting any new information that's come to light or presenting it in a way that is definitive in any way?
Yeah.
I feel like it would have benefited from coming at a time either much, much later on.
When people forgot about it.
Especially because I think we can talk about why this might have happened, but why the McCanns themselves distanced themselves from this. And none of the friends were involved either that were there. They kind of got people that were a bit more distant to the case than, Also, I just want to talk about, so as you said, it seemed like they were clutching at straws a lot of the time to fill time. Yeah. And I kind of thought it was like that from the first episode. They were just dragging it out straight from the off.
Yeah.
And I want to talk about specifically, did you clock on to the guy that was speaking to the camera for about 10 seconds?
He was only in that one scene, wasn't he?
So the whole documentary was consisting of people giving interviews that were related to the case. So whether that be police or people that were at the resort, witnesses type thing. Or just footage of recreations of the scenes, or just general footage.
Yeah.
And there was one 10-second scene where, like Crime Watch or something, where there was a guy talking to the camera where this is the scene where this happened, and that happened once, never to be seen again.
No. I'm sure that was filmed for Netflix as well. It was definitely for this documentary. And he wasn't in anything. He wasn't like another person that we'd seen later on. It was
like there was a host for the show
Yeah.
that was cut from everything else, but they forgot to cut him from one
that was weird
thing. And it was like little bits like that made me think, like, how was this produced? It seemed messy.
It felt amateur.
Yeah.
A little bit amateur.
In some areas it did, in some it didn't. But that was one thing that I think heavily contributed to me thinking, like, who's behind financing this? It seems, what's the reasons for it? And who's gone about making it
this
way.
Yeah, I feel like it's some controversial enough that it will be spoken about, and therefore is good advertisement for who made it and Netflix in itself. So I think that's maybe a reason why.
Yeah.
You know, I think obviously the family doesn't see it as a good thing, because otherwise I feel like they'd be involved.
Yeah.
So obviously it can't be from them or for them.
No. But that said, they did manage to get a lot of people who were fairly high profile in the case on as well. But I think we could kind of like talk about that as we go through sections of it. So should we talk about the whole case? This will all be related to the Netflix documentary, because that's kind of all we've been basing this off.
If you haven't watched it, what we talk about will probably make a lot more sense if you do go and watch it.
Yeah. That said, I think people will be familiar enough with the case that it's enough to... But because I wouldn't necessarily recommend this documentary, I don't think. I wouldn't say it's... I expected more from what's arguably the biggest distributor of video media in the world right now. The fact that they finance something, I was expecting more from it than kind of... no conclusions were reached, and there was no fact that was presented in a compelling enough way that I thought... It's a good job they made this.
It wasn't as if they'd done some investigating journalism and they were like, this is what we found, and we're thinking this is our theory we're putting towards it. They kind of went in with... they came out with just, these are the general ideas, and we've got nothing. Nobody's got anything.
But then also went off on big narrative diversions just of their own thing halfway through as well.
Yeah.
Just, like I said, it felt like it was just filling time.
Yeah.
But anyway... Right, so have you made notes on this? Because I've tried to compile my thoughts in some way, because there was a lot to go through in this.
I didn't make notes as I was watching it. No.
Okay, I've just tried to make headers of things to talk about.
Yeah.
Because, like we said, there's about 8 hours of this, so trying to remember it all is going to be a struggle.
Cool.
But right, this case as a whole has blown up in a proportion like no other case of anything I can think of ever.
Yeah.
And why is that? Because they said in the documentary, they called it a transcendent case.
Yeah.
Which kind of, I think, is right. Like, it's almost become ingrained in something equivalent of, like, pop culture. Like, that kind of event. But it's the kind of thing, Because I want to stress this, that I'm not trying to demean this case in any way, because it is horrific. But any missing child case is also horrific.
For sure.
And it's just very strange how this one in particular... blew up to the proportion it did.
I think the McCanns are probably the reason because of that, because they are a middle class white family from Britain.
Yeah,
holds a lot more clout in the media and what public people might think of them than, say, a family from, I don't know, a lower class family from a place that's not seemed to be very nice.
But I've got no examples to back this up, but I'm sure it's not the first time that a middle-class white family have had a child go missing in history.
I guess, but they are both doctors and probably have a sort of clout, and I'm sure they had connections within the media. I think they had people that were... But yeah, I think it's also a snowballing thing as well. Once people got hold of it, the McCanns are also pushing for the media to be involved as well, because they felt that was their best way for the child to be found. I think that's fair enough if that's the way that they wanted to go about it.
Yeah, because there was a stat straight from the documentary that there was 1,667 other missing children cases at the same time as Madeleine McCann.
Yeah,
and obviously they got no coverage compared to this one. But I just the whole way through this, that was my biggest thought. Is it was crazy how big this case was compared to others.
Or is it just that the time was right for that? If it hadn't been the McCanns, it may have been another family. Yeah. You know, there was nothing specifically about that case, but statistically, one was likely to blow up in that way.
Yeah.
The country was ready for a tragedy to grip the nation.
Yeah.
And a lot of people could relate. You know, that they spoke about this in the documentary. Your family going on holiday and having a kid disappear is probably a nightmare of many parents that have had. You know, you're in a foreign country, you don't speak the language. I think people, if you can relate to a story, it's more like to grab your attention, which is then the media is going to feed into that.
Yeah. Media. Talking of the media.
Yeah.
Like you said, I think initially they went to them to raise a profile and everything. What were your thoughts on the media after this? Or specifically the media that handled this?
kind of disgusting.
Yeah.
And like, I don't really like, tabloid media anyway.
Yeah.
I think they don't care about the truth.
No.
They just care about selling newspapers or
it got so out
clicks.
of hand.
Yeah.
And literally what you just said then, so I tried to write down quotes as I was listening. There was, I can't remember his name, but specifically the editor of The Sun that they interviewed on there. Mm-hmm. He said at the time, we weren't thinking about facts. All we were thinking about was how the headlines would make people feel. And another direct quote, he said, if it looks about right, lob it in.
Yeah.
How can you, as a journalist, publish that and say that? That's what you're basing things off. We don't care about the facts. Like literally saying that outright. If it vaguely looks about right, just print it.
Yeah, because they were talking about printing the headline, "Did you kill Maddie?" ?
Yeah.
Well, they're going to come out and say no, but you're putting that question out there to the public.
Yeah.
And they're going to be like, well, there's no smoke without fire.
Yeah.
Like even if there's literally no evidence to back it up whatsoever, then it's still in the public perception of that's what's going on.
Yeah. As soon as it's out there, it's not going back, and it's tarnishing people from the off. So let's talk about, so the suspects that they cover in the case and in this documentary, specifically the first one was, what was he called? Robert Murat.
Murat, yeah.
So what did you think about him first and foremost?
I think he was a scapegoat. I think he was picked out because he was a single man that wanted to help out, and because of there was a recent killing of 2 children that was by a caretaker previously, only a few months beforehand, and this caretaker had been helping out with the media and kind of involving himself in the case, and he found out that it was him. I think then there was prejudice against these people, against Robert Murat,
M-U-R-A-T.
because I don't know, some journalists thought he was just a bit weird.
Yeah.
And he was just a man that wanted to help out like everybody else.
Yeah. I do think there was, if you're not familiar, he was basically, I think he was a translator who was local to the area.
Yeah.
He was British but lived there.
Well, I don't think that was his job, but he spoke both languages for sure.
He became. So he definitely attached himself quite strongly to the case. Like he was there every day with people. And I can understand people questioning that, but then it was the media that literally just drew his name through the gutter.
For sure.
Because he said that he couldn't work after this. Even though he was cleared afterwards, it was too late by that point. Like his name was tarnished, and there was enough people that just read a headline and took that as truth. And I think that's so damaging. Yeah.
That's all. You want to live in a world where you're innocent until proven guilty.
Yeah.
But it doesn't matter. If everybody thinks you're guilty, you might as well be guilty.
Yeah. Yeah. Media did not come off well from this, I don't think.
They didn't.
The other person in that, so there was 2 main suspects around that time that were linked to Robert Murat. The other one was Sergei Malinka.
Yep.
The Russian
computer
tech
guy. Yeah.
What did you think of him?
I think both of that. He was dragged in on like one phone call from the night that
was strange.
Yeah. And neither of them had any recollection.
No.
That is, I think Netflix put that out there to look like this is a bit weird. This is an unresolved mystery. But I think you might have butt dialed. If neither of them recall it, and there was no other evidence than
I think the
2 people that.
The other bits that made it weird though were the phone call was made, and there was a record of that from. So Robert Murat had commissioned this Russian guy to make a website for him.
Yeah.
He'd made a call around midnight of the night that Maddie went missing, which is definitely worth investigating, if the suspicions anyway. Then that led to the technician guy destroyed a load of hard drives, and then in questioning, and even on the Netflix documentary, he refused to answer what was on the hard drives.
I thought he didn't destroy them, and that the police took them in, and then because the police claimed that there was pornography on them, didn't they? They didn't say child pornography.
No, they didn't. But I did find it very odd that even when he was interviewed, like now for this documentary, instead of saying no, there wasn't any pornography on them, he said, "I don't want to answer that."
Yeah,
I'm not saying that he took Maddie, but
I think I can understand that, because if you go, Ben, do you watch dwarf porn? How do you answer that?
No.
Oh, do you really though? Do you know what I mean? I think he doth protest too much kind of stuff. If he goes, no, I didn't, there's no way to if someone thinks there's something there, and there's no way you can prove it either way, because you haven't got it anymore or whatever.
Yeah.
If you protest too much, you look like, well, he doth protest too much, isn't it? That's the thing.
Yeah.
You know, like, I can't. There's nothing I can say to make people think otherwise. If I go, no, there's no pornography there, they're going to go, yeah, but is there? Do you know what I mean? I can understand why.
In the context of that interview, there were so many questions that he did answer that were equally as uncomfortable, and his whole body language when that question came up, like, he visibly just became. Do you know what I mean?
I do. That shot felt out of place. There wasn't many other scenes where you could hear the interviewer talk.
No.
So that whole shot seemed out of place in the whole thing for me.
Yeah.
That whole where he's being interviewed. Obviously, there were people being interviewed throughout the whole thing, but you never heard the interviewer's voice.
Other than the two camera reporter in the first episode. I
feel that was almost trying to paint him in a bad light.
Yeah.
Because if they would they've included if he goes, you know, was there any pornography on that? And he just goes, no, there wasn't. Would they've included that? I don't know.
Yeah.
So maybe he was in the wrong for his own publicity to say, no, I'm not going to talk about it.
While we're talking about suspects, because there's not really many suspects in this case.
No.
The only other two were Kate and Jerry McCann.
Yeah.
Did you come up with any strong feelings about who did this or who you would peg as the suspect after this? Or a likely case? I don't mean to try and bait you into an answer here, but just like, yeah.
After watching the documentary, no. Probably someone who wasn't involved in any way in that documentary, a mystery person or persons.
Yeah.
I don't think it was the McCanns.
Yeah, that's what I came away from as well.
I think that's what the documentary was also trying to portray.
Yeah.
So I don't know enough about it otherwise.
Yeah.
But I think there are people that think it was the McCanns.
Yeah. A large portion, it seems.
Yes.
Of people.
But I do think they are at fault for negligence, for leaving their children
totally
asleep.
Yeah.
In an unattended, unlocked hotel room, where they said they were checking on the children every 20 minutes.
Time-wise, nothing seems to match up there.
No.
From all the reports of the friends and them, and when they tried to recreate events, I think they basically came out and said it in the documentary. It was like, there's no way the times that they were giving made any sense.
No.
Yeah.
No, but I also think, though, they may have said, like, oh, yeah, we'll probably went every 20 minutes. It's probably like every hour.
Yeah.
Maybe something like
when
that.
Because it said they were drinking, they were... Like when you're on a night out, time can pass very differently when you're,
for sure.
When you're drinking and
Because what were they leaving from 8 o'clock at night till 1 o'clock in the morning?
Yeah.
I doubt they've done it 3 times an hour for like 6 hours.
Yeah. But I think the biggest thing is their behavior and everything was getting criticized. And I kind of struggle to get on board with that because there is no way that you can behave no one's going to behave the same way dealing with this. Because they were saying that they're not emotional enough, and it's like how do you can't expect someone to react a certain way when something like this happens, and then let alone how the media are treating them through this as well.
Yeah.
I don't think you can be expecting them to. Yeah.
Right. So should we talk about some of the reasons why the McCanns were suspects?
Yes.
So the one and only real reason that the Netflix documentary said was that they had dogs come and find evidence for a dead body and blood.
Yeah.
So they got 2 trained dogs from the UK to come over, and they are sniffer dogs. One dog that finds cadavers, the smell of cadavers, and one dog that finds the smell of blood.
Yeah.
So they searched the hotel room, the apartment, and both dogs found something in the child's bedroom by a cupboard. Mm-hmm. And then both found something on the couch in the apartment.
Yeah.
And then they also found smell of blood and cadaver on the McCann's rental car.
Yeah.
Which I thought was quite damning at first.
Definitely.
And then the more I thought about it, the sillier it seemed to me.
Mm.
The car especially was strange because they only hired the car 25 days after
she went missing.
So the idea that the police were putting forward was that they had killed her accidentally or on purpose, hid the body for 25 days, plus.
Yeah.
And then used the car that they'd hired under all of this media scrutiny to then go and hide the body somewhere. Mm-hmm. Which I think is a ridiculous logical conclusion to come to. Which then throws the idea of those dogs being a reliable thing a bit silly.
So I do think that the dogs are a reliable thing.
Yeah.
So they did quite a big portion in the documentary talking about the two dogs. And they were basically under scrutiny from the FBI and loads of organizations that were like, this doesn't seem like a plausible thing. Mm-hmm. But the FBI did lots of testing on his facts, and they pretty much came back with 100% success rate, didn't they? But what that isn't to say is that they're dogs. They can't communicate the information fully that they're indicating. Mm-hmm. So when they came across things around that smell, around the cupboard and the sofa, they both pinpointed them in independent searches. Mm-hmm. But you don't know when.
Yeah, no.
That could have been, it was an apartment that was, we don't know how long it was there before. It's not just them that exclusively used it. That could have been from years
for sure
ago. They said in the testing that the smell, I'm sure they said in 20 years, they did some tests for bodies that had been moved.
Yeah, we had some body that was buried only for a short period of time, and then we also found the spot 20 years later where the smell was still there.
Yeah.
And it's like, well, that means that for the whole period that's been an apartment, has somebody died there?
They could very easily, someone could have died in that sofa.
Yeah.
In the apartment.
Yeah.
I'm not saying that's 100% what happened, but it's enough that would be worth investigating, but with no other information to back up those indications. Yeah. It's kind of useless.
Yeah.
And I think, again, that became such a big deal because the Portuguese police jumped the gun on releasing that information.
Well, yeah, they're not supposed to release any information, are they? But this case there was leaks here, there, and everywhere.
Yeah.
And almost everything got to the media some way, somehow. So, yeah. And then it spiralized into the McCanns being a Guido.
Yes.
I think.
Shall we talk about the police in this?
Yeah.
Or the competency of the police in this?
Mm-hmm. Not good.
Not good at all.
No.
Especially at the beginning of the investigation. There was literally footage when, I think within an hour or 2 hours of it being announced, when they should have been checking cars that were leaving the area, and there was footage of the police literally just watching cars going past.
Yeah, like sheltering away from the rain, wasn't it?
There's things like that. There was a lot of things. So I think that the pride of the Portuguese police, they didn't want to accept help from outside, even though they should have recognised they said themselves it was a very safe area of their country. It wasn't something they were used to. And rather than recognising, okay, we might be a bit out of our depth here, let's welcome help, they just didn't.
No.
I think this could have gone very differently had it been handled differently from the beginning.
I think the initial, when a child goes missing, if you don't do something as soon as possible, then your likelihood of finding them drops massively.
It's too late.
Yeah. So they didn't contact the actual FBI of the PJ, as it were, the FBI of Portugal until, I don't know, hours and hours and hours had passed, and they weren't initially ready and waiting to go from the initial uptake. So I think once that moment had passed and they'd been incompetent enough to kind of, if she had been taken, to let them kind of slip through their fingers, because once you're out of that local area, if there was a kidnapping and trafficking idea, then she was gone to the world and almost going to be impossible to find. Yeah. Whereas if you had caught them there and then, you'd do much better, obviously.
Yep. But I thought it was simple things like the mishandling of leads. There was things in this documentary that cropped up. Leads were given 2, 3, 4 years plus after the investigation. So they announced that there was one which sounded quite compelling. There was a driver who was going to his pizza business, I think. And he saw what was what looked like a man and a woman carrying a child. And the way it was described was it was sketchy, basically. It looked like they were trying to hide. And when they saw that they'd been spotted in his headlights, they tried very quickly to get off the road. Mm-hmm. That was given to the police, I think, within an hour or two after she went missing. Yeah. And it wasn't followed up until a year after.
I want to give the police a little bit of slack because I feel there are going to be lots of people giving that kind of information.
Yeah.
And it's very hard to sort through the stuff that's going to be applicable. Like you can actually search on stuff that's just utter shite, and people that's like, I saw a child at this point, she looked a bit like that.
Yeah.
Do they have the manpower to follow everything up? Probably not.
Yeah.
So you have to decide what's relevant and what's not. Like it said throughout the whole thing, the most likely explanation for a child going missing is usually somebody within that knows the child, and it's unlikely to be a stranger.
Yeah.
However, that's not always true.
Yeah.
But I feel like you're right. Yeah, something should have been followed.
Something that close to where it happened, when it happened,
yeah,
to not even be looked at for a year seems
it
odd.
Does.
Yeah.
It does. I wonder how many of those, though, they had where they did look them up as
200.
soon as...
Yeah, true. I was going to say, on the police thing, what did you think of... So the main head of...
PJ.
The PJ... Gonçalo Amaral.
Yeah. He went and sold a book and did a TV series about this case after being fired for kind of negligence.
Yeah.
To kind of make money. I think that was a shitty move.
He seemed like a really shitty guy at the end of that to me.
Yeah.
He was convinced, I think from the first interview he was giving, it was very obvious that he thought that they did it.
Yeah.
And it looked like every action he did was like blind us down on any other possibility. Mm-hmm. That's what it seemed like to me. And then when he got fired, because he'd got previous sketchy cases on his behavior before, he then went and released a book to profit from it.
Yeah.
When it's kind of like, when you're in this position, you're expected to handle these secrets and help people, not go out and,
I'm surprised that he did this whole Netflix thing.
Same.
Because it didn't paint him in a good light at all.
Nope.
But does he care then? I am assuming he got paid to do this.
Yeah.
Must be the only reason why he's doing it.
Yeah.
Because why else would you do... Unless the people that were in the documentary didn't know, I guess. Maybe he just thought, oh, maybe they will also... Netflix will be pointing the finger at the McCanns.
Yeah, maybe.
Because of all this evidence I've given.
Yeah.
But yeah, so the McCanns went to court to get this publication banned and never printed again.
Yep.
But it got overturned in an appeals court.
Yeah, they were successful the first time, so it did get banned, and then overturned later, wasn't it?
Yeah. So, but he just comes across real shitty. Like he didn't really want to be doing that job. No, that's not the right saying. He didn't want to do a good job.
No.
He wanted an easy fix, which was pointing the finger at the parents.
Yeah.
And then trying to get them to confess.
Yeah. But I thought the one guy that did seem competent through all of this was Jim Gamble, the Irish guy, bold Irish guy, who was...
Oh, yeah.
He seemed like he handled everything the best that he kind of could with the circumstances, but just couldn't get there till much later. No. Because they weren't allowed in from the UK.
Yeah, he was kind of a international child protection thing to stop trafficking and abuse and stuff like this with pedophiles and human trafficking.
That's one good thing that seemed to come from this documentary, is it unearthed a paedophile ring in
Spain.
Europe. Was it Spain?
Yeah.
Because they got a private investigator from Spain, and whilst he didn't manage to track down Madeleine McCann, he did identify this paedophile ring and close that down.
Can we talk about that? So they had a Scottish multi-millionaire come and help out with the case.
Around the time that the public turned against the McCanns, basically.
Yeah.
It was kind of the point where people started suspecting them rather than feeling sympathy for them. And then,
What did you think about him?
I struggled to work out his motivations, and I didn't really know what I thought of him by the end of it.
Yeah.
I didn't feel warm towards him. I felt like he had an agenda, but I just couldn't work out what the agenda was.
To me, he felt like this was like, I'm a rich person and I kind of do what I want. It was like his plaything almost.
Yeah.
It feels bad to point the finger at this guy and say, you were just doing it because you're rich and you could. And I think helping out people is totally fine. Yeah. But like you said, I feel like he did have an agenda, but I don't know what it was.
Yeah.
Maybe he's just a really nice, kind, multi-millionaire.
Yeah.
Don't want to help out.
It's so hard to not be cynical about...
Yeah.
I don't know what that says about the state of the world.
Yeah.
But just when someone does something nice, you always go, what's the motivation there?
Yeah. Because his reasoning was like, I just wanted to help out.
Yeah.
And I could.
Yeah.
But then why did you do it with that case and not all the other missing children cases? Is it because it was so public and you kind of wanted to be in this public eye?
I think there was a lot of people that tried to or did benefit from their tragedy. For example, the Scottish guy, they first financed a private investigator in Spain.
Yeah.
And then when those leads kind of ran out, they went to an American one who turned out to be a complete fraud.
Yeah.
I have Kevin Halligan, I think his name was.
Right.
So he said that he had a company called Oakley International that were like top of the business, everything. They promised the world. So, and then they realized that he was just a complete fraud.
Yeah.
There was no truth to what he was saying. Like the GPS images that he promised he could give them from the night she disappeared were just, I think, Google Earth images.
Yeah.
And they quickly realized that for months they'd been shelling out money on him and there was nothing.
I felt that whole story was like a bit filler. Like it was interesting.
There was so many instances of that though in there.
But it was just like kind of filler. Yeah. And then what did you feel of the millionaire's son that was like helping out with the investigation?
He seemed like a nicer person, I thought, than his dad. Not that I want to assess how they are as people. But he seemed like he was quite young at the time and his dad just asked him to help him and he kind of went along with it.
Yeah, I feel like that's what him and his father were like.
Credentials for what they were getting into, really.
No, it's like, oh, we want something to do.
Yeah.
And this is like, oh, we can do this.
Yeah.
And his son, the one line that his son said that like kind of bothered me was because they did all these like investigations on people that might have been related to the case. And it was like, did you feel bad about who you kind of upset, or because he was like following people that was like against the law? And he was like, no, I didn't care that I followed people, and he was like, I wanted to kick down people's doors and just search their houses, and basically he didn't care for anything else other than finding this kid. Fair enough.
Yeah.
But don't make people's lives miserable that have no relation to the case. You know, that makes you the arsehole then.
Yeah. Things like Robert Murat and people whose name have got dragged through the gutter when they actually have no...
Yeah.
Yeah. The other thing was, I wanted to talk a little bit about, so the artist's impressions and people's memory of events. It's something that, there's a podcast series called Serial that you've recommended to me in the past that's really good, and I think this is the best way that they sum it up. In the first episode, they just try and highlight how people's witness reports can be so off. Like, they just basically say, can you tell me your day-to-day week last week? Just give me a specific hour. And they basically just proved that 90% of that is likely to be wrong or doesn't add up. Just because kind of like, the way that our memory works. Yeah.
It was like, what were you doing 3 weeks ago at 1 o'clock on Tuesday?
Yeah.
And they were like, they go, oh, well, usually on a Tuesday I do this. And then that's what they say.
Yeah.
Whereas sometimes it was actually like, they went and looked on Facebook for actual proof and evidence, and they was like, oh no, I was actually doing this.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, that's right, I remember now.
Yeah. I specifically thought, I think there was one instance about 4 years after the case where they made a new artist impression of the suspect, and I was like, this is what, years after it's gone missing, and you're trying to base this off something that you vaguely saw 4 years ago.
Yeah.
Very hard to base things off.
It was.
And then the papers were printing, this is the man we're looking for. And it's, Yeah,
it's all very loose evidence. You know, here's someone that we it's not as in we know that this is the person that's done the kidnapping.
Yeah.
Here's someone that might be of interest. Do you know them? And it's like the initial EFIT or the creation of them was like an egg with hair on.
Yeah, that was literally it.
Yeah, which is basically as much as the other artist gave.
Yeah.
Because it wasn't, because the other artist did like a whole body, and it was like, this is what they look like as they were walking down the street, but you still couldn't recognize who they were.
No. It was like, basically all we know is they're human.
Yeah.
That's kind of it.
How did that artist make you feel?
A bit weird, actually.
Yeah, she was weird.
I'm trying to think of, there was one thing that popped into my head when I was watching her. Oh, I can't remember what it was.
Is it one when they were like, oh, the drawing you did was almost exactly the same as that guy? And she was like, oh, really?
She was like super happy.
Yeah. And it's like, no, that's not the tone.
Yeah.
Why are you so happy?
That is what it was.
About a missing child kind of thing. She was, I'm sure she's just a really happy and nice person.
Yeah, I just found it so weird watching her feeling so gratified over that. Yeah, I don't know.
It was odd.
But yeah, I overall thoughts at the end of it was just kind of, like I said at the beginning, I'm not sure why this documentary was made now when it just felt like they were turning over the events that have already happened again. Mm-hmm. There was no new take, no new information, no new investigative leads or anything like that.
It felt like this could have been like a 3-parter.
Yeah.
Instead of like an 8-parter.
Yeah.
There are probably some episodes we didn't even like, some things we didn't even talk about because they just didn't seem so relevant.
That's what I mean. There was 8 hours of this. So I was trying to, when I thought something seemed vaguely interesting, make a note. But there was just so much. Yeah. There was just so much to watch. And I think it was way too long.
There was a lot of filler shots of just like seaside resort.
Yeah.
Of the area, I imagine.
Yeah.
I'll tell you one thing that was really good for this.
What?
Was, and documentary do this well, is the music.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
Like, I thought the music in this, keeping the tone and the tension was really good. Yeah. Like, if they didn't have that music behind it, then this documentary would be terrible. Yeah. Like, it's not good, but the music kind of makes it. You might be able to talk more about this.
I was going to say, the music, I kind of zoned out a little bit, because like you said, it was more adding tension and atmosphere than having like a whole score to it. Mm-hmm. But the one thing I did like that glued the whole thing together over this 8-part thing was the day counter that kind of it gave everything a timeline, a bit more structure to it. I thought that was good that they did that. But on a whole, I don't really know what I come away thinking about this. It didn't answer anything, and it didn't hint at any answers.
No. I don't think it wasn't great.
No.
I didn't particularly enjoy it. It wasn't gripping and doesn't leave you with any answers at all.
No. Trying to finish on a little bit of hope, or a slightly lighter note, towards the end of the documentary, it did finish on showing a few cases where children had gone missing, and then 10 years, however many years later, they have found the children again. Not to say that this is guaranteed to happen with this case, but it can happen.
Yeah, I think it may come out in our time just because obviously somebody knows what's happened. So I think there may be some sort of deathbed revelation. Yeah. Or if they get caught doing something else, or I think someone will probably come clean about it if they know. If they're still alive. Or, like you said, they'll be found much later on. But if you are the person that's taken it, are you the heat you would get for coming out or being found, or if you're a human trafficker, I think it's sad to talk like this, but I imagine that you don't want that kind of heat. No. So is it better for your self-preservation to kill and get rid of that child?
The saddest part of this is if she did get kidnapped and it was with the intention of human trafficking and being sold on, it became impossible for that to have happened because of how identifiable she was, from things like the birthmark on her eye and also just the media raising the profile as high as it did.
Unless that's a selling point within the trafficking community. I
did find that like deeply saddening after watching this. There was a stat for, I feel odd calling it an industry, but they said that the human trafficking industry was 150 billion annually. That's like, it's horrific.
It is.
I felt so sad for, there was one, I think she was a Portuguese lady whose son had gone missing around the same time, and when they unearthed this paedophile ring, they had a catalogue of all the children, and this woman was allowed to see it, and she found her son in it amongst pages and pages and pages of other children. But I thought that was that was sad.
Yeah, that was sad. I feel like that story was interesting in and of itself, but held very little relevance to the actual documentary core. That felt like filler again. Yeah. Like, it was interesting, but it didn't really relate to the story.
Yeah, I think it was just used as a kind of what we're talking about at the start on why this case got the proportions it did. When I think I noted this down. So the boy was called Rui Pedro, the one that went missing at the same time, and they said the total budget spent on him was around 1% of the Madeleine search. Yeah. So I think that was its relation, just to kind of like counter, show them next to each other.
Yeah.
But Yeah.
Right.
Just really sad.
It is.
Yeah.
It is. I know as I was, because we probably were quite young when this, so it was 2006?
Yes.
So it was 2007.
3rd of May 2007.
Yeah, so it's been, 11 years.
Yeah.
So, it's kind of half our lifetime ago.
Yeah.
I know people that I know in person had very strong views that the McCanns did it, basically. But it's hard to know, isn't it?
Yeah. So regardless of what your opinion is on it, picture how tragic it is if you are them and say they are innocent, to have that for years just put on them, that so many hundreds of thousands of people think they did it.
Yeah.
It's just, yeah. But then say they did do it. There's no way of knowing from...
No.
There's no evidence. No. And until, like you said, someone knows, and until that happens, no one's ever going to know.
Yeah. Do we want to do a counterpoint here? So I found a...
Yes, you found a thread, didn't you?
Yeah. Yeah, we're going to talk about basically... We like a bit of a conspiracy theory here.
Yes.
So I found a conspiracy... There are lots of conspiracy theories around the Madeleine McCann disappearance. So we thought we might as well...
Read it
and talk about it.
Just for an alternate take that's not this documentary.
Yeah.
It's someone who's independently investigated themselves, isn't it? Yeah. So we'll have a read of that now?
Yeah.
Okay, here we go.
Okay.
Okay.
So you just finished reading that?
Yeah.
So
I'll say we'll put the link in the notes on the podcast if anyone wants to go through this thread that we've just written.
So this has had nearly 17,000 retweets and 56,000 likes on Twitter.
Yes.
So it's basically this guy called, well, you find him on Twitter, we'll link it.
Josh,
who goes through a collection of different facts and tries to string together a narrative of what he believes to have happened.
Yes. I want to put facts in heavy quotation marks.
Yeah.
Because we were just talking about whether we should talk about this or not. Because if these are facts, they're very compelling, but we're struggling to find sources for the facts that he's given.
Yeah. Yeah.
Anyway, do you want to outline what his theory is?
Sure. So the first thing he talks about is Clement Freud. He was a former British MP, and Josh claims that he had a apartment nearby to where the McCanns were.
Yes.
He also makes the claim that he is a child abuser and paedophile.
Which apparently is true. I think there was a documentary about him. He's since died, but yeah.
Yeah. But he was never prosecuted, so I'm not saying that he wasn't, but never prosecuted. And then goes on to talk about two brothers who they also even more strenuously claim to be pedophiles.
From leaked emails.
They are heads of staff in the White House.
Yeah.
And helped with Hillary Clinton's campaign. And their link here is that they look a little bit like the E-Fits, which the Freudian slip there. Detective Kevin Halligan created.
Yeah.
So I don't know much about this. They claim that that Halligan died in suspicious foul play.
Yeah.
Which sounds very conspiracy theory to me. It's claimed that these two brothers were at the apartment of Freud while Maddie disappeared.
And they're also saying that Freud is friends with the McCanns.
Yeah.
To the point where they email and they were invited over to his house for a meal during this stay.
Yeah. So goes on then to say, so it feels like it's blaming them slightly. I feel like that's what part of it is. They go on to basically have a personal attack on Kate and Gary. Gary. I don't know. Sorry. Kate and Jerry.
Yeah.
You can edit that in. Where basically a personal attack on how they behaved after their child went missing.
Yeah.
Some of the points they raised are interesting, saying from her autobiography, this is a weird way of phrasing it. So, I told Jerry about the awful pictures that scrolled through my head of her body, her perfect little genitals torn apart. Which...
That sounds bad.
Yeah.
But I've seen that before from someone making this point, and in the wider context of that book and its chapter, I think it's talking about instances of like the media talking about things like that and putting it to her and her reaction to those images then being in her head after that. I think that was the idea. I've not read the book, but that's my understanding of it anyway.
I imagine it's taken out of context.
Yeah.
And the idea is that they basically make them sound like they're shit and then say they could have gone anywhere on holiday, but they went to this specific place because their friend, who's a known paedophile, lived close by.
And then they bring Robert Murat back into it.
Yeah.
Saying that they're basically saying all of these paedophiles are within hundreds of meters of the McCanns at this point.
Yeah.
That's basically what all that's saying.
And they're all friends.
And they're all friends. But then it goes to say that the hire car that the McCanns hired was paid for by Robert Murat, and it was under his ex-wife's name.
Yeah.
That's the biggest bit that I'm like, okay, that does sound really bad, but I can't find where this evidence is.
No, and it sounds like to me that they're saying that he was renting the car.
Yeah, because then another bit that he goes on to say is that there is apparently DNA evidence of hair and bodily fluid found in Robert Murat's villa that were Madeleine McCann's.
Yeah.
And I just fail to believe that that's true, because if it was fact, that would be out there.
Yeah. I feel like this is a classic conspiracy where they don't really throw out any real hard facts and evidence and kind of muddle together lots of different theories, because I don't really know who they're trying to say took Maddie.
No.
Did Robert Murat know these other people? They claim that they say he was being accused of multiple accounts of bestiality and rape, which I don't think has ever been proved.
No.
Which, it's easy to say that and then just put his name is this. Do you know what I mean? It's very provocative.
This feels like classic conspiracy theory, like you said, that there's a lot of things being thrown out, but no real source for them.
No.
And this kind of was covered in the documentary, where I think it's a problem, social media. So around 2007, when all of this was blowing up, Facebook had been around for a year and Twitter had just started. And a lot of people at that time were reading things on what was new social media and treating it like news sources. Mm-hmm. And whilst people are still a bit more savvy to that now, things like this, I know for a fact that there's a percentage of people that will read this, not question the sourcing, and say, oh my God, well, the McCanns definitely did it because they're friends with this paedophile. Fact.
And they let her be taken. To me, I think people choose to believe this because it makes a better narrative. Yeah. It's a better story. Like it fits more nice and neat into a nice little package. Oh, the parents did it because they're friends with a paedophile and they like to have their child abused. Yeah. For whatever reason. Yep. Oh, they're horrible people. In that little pocket, throw it away. I don't have to think about it anymore. Yeah. I think it's a load of bollocks.
I would agree with you on this one. I think it would be good to have a contrasting report from someone on this case. However, I don't think Josh from Twitter is necessarily the best source to offer that.
No.
Yeah.
I think that's what Netflix tried to avoid. Maybe that's why they had lots of stuff they didn't show us anything that wasn't already public knowledge. Yeah. That wasn't already proven and actual evidenced. Yeah. Which is maybe why it didn't have such a good narrative. If it had been a full conspiracy theory episode, I imagine they could have made it look like this Twitter thread.
I think they could have painted it in,
Yeah, and sold it that the parents were horrible people.
Yeah.
But I'm not sure I believe that.
Yeah, that might not necessarily have been right.
No.
Yeah. Right. Shall we bring this mammoth episode to a close?
Yes, we shall. Thank you very much for listening to another conspiracy episode?
Not really. I don't want to call this one a conspiracy because I don't want to present it as the conspiracy theory suggests.
I'd be curious to see what people's opinions are on this. If you have strong opinions either way, let us know. If your opinions changed after watching the Netflix documentary, let us know.
Had yours changed?
I didn't really have strong opinions either way. I didn't have enough evidence to know vice versa. now watching this, I feel like, well, I still don't know who it is.
Yeah.
But now I feel like it's the parents less than maybe what I felt like before.
Likewise, I think that my opinion had been wrongly painted more from conspiracy type things like we were just reading.
Yeah.
And I kind of thought in the back of my mind that it was more them, but after watching it, that's...
Yeah.
Yeah.
Contact us in all the usual places, bar at twosheepinapool.com. If you want to check out who's winning on the scores, you can go there.
That's me.
Just. Thank you for listening. I've been James.
I've been Ben.
Bye.
See you next time.
Bye.